this idea of the podcast? When did that first start?
Yeah, it's about 2016. I think I could have named maybe on one hand the Catholic podcasts I'd known about. You know.
Do you remember any?
Yeah,
back then?
Catholic Stuff You Should Know was a big podcast back then. Catching Foxes was a podcast back then. Mark Hart from Life Teen had a Sunday episode.
Oh, I forgot about that.
But I don't think like Ascension.
I think that's it.
I don't
I think 3.
No, there was probably more. I just couldn't have named them.
Yeah.
And so I was getting a master's degree in Thomistic philosophy at the time. And I knew that if I was to do some kind of extracurricular work, I may have been able to knock off a class from life experience or something. So I started Pints with Aquinas, not just to get some extra credit for class. And so I had released 7 or 8 episodes before I told anybody, after 7 or 8 weeks. So that's that. And then I remember I'd be at these with my work at the time, at these conferences to promote their thing. And more and more people were coming up to me telling me about Pints with Aquinas. I was like, this is weird. Yeah. And so eventually I wanted to take it full time. So I went to my good wife and I said, hear me out. What if I quit my job and we make $30,000 a year without health insurance, which is a big thing in America to have health insurance, but we wouldn't have had it because I would have been on my own. And Cameron, being the beautiful woman that she is, said, yeah, let's do it. And so...
How many children?
4.
4 at the time. Yeah.
And she had just had massive operations and surgery, so we had medical bills and all sorts of things. And yeah, so we quit. I quit the job. Obviously, I couldn't say, hey, does anyone want to support me so I can quit my job? That clearly would have been inappropriate and disrespectful to my employer. So I had to quit my job officially and then go on the if you guys want to support us for $10 a month, that could really help us right now. And so Pints with Aquinas kind of grew from there.
About 2016, 17.
That would have been about 2018.
18.
Yeah.
Okay. What started off with this little sayings of St. Thomas Aquinas, little unpacking that, sort of evolved, didn't it? Yeah. And then
Someone said to me recently, Father Pine said, so why, because you don't really focus a lot on Aquinas, why not call it Pints with Dostoevsky or something? And I said, well, we may as well at this point, So it's certainly evolved. In the beginning, I was just reading articles and commenting on it. But I liked having long conversations with people, and a lot of the things we talk about revolve around theology and philosophy, so I just decided to keep the name.
Yeah, wow. So organically growing, 2018. When did it really go to that next level? I know COVID hit and a lot of people got onto the podcast, and this is my memory, but when you quit your job, you're full-time, you're now starting to get noticed in 2018.
Yeah.
Was there like a big spike at some point? Did you want to
talk about it?
Like, was it nervous that 28 first year?
Yeah. Well, just a funny thing. My family's not Catholic. My mom goes to a non-denominational church, and anyhow, people would eventually someone would find out.
Now we've got to learn your story.
someone would find out that like Matt Fradd was her son-in-law, and for my mom, Matt's only thing, because what he was doing before was speaking about the evils of pornography. So someone would come up and be like, oh, I heard your son's Matt Fradd. I love him. It's like, Cameron, I had no idea that this was someone that's, really addicted to pornography. I'm like, oh, Mom, no, that's not the only thing he's known for. So in her world, anyone that was like, your son in words really helped me, she's like, I need to pray for you. You really struggle with pornography. So kind of a fun, random side thing.
Yeah, but I came back from Chicago. I had given a parish mission. Day 1, we had heard about COVID. Day 2, we weren't shaking each other's hands, not to be weird, but just in case. Day 3, it was like full-on panic. And so when I came back, all of my speaking engagements were on hold, right? And it was, so that was the primary way we were making money. And it was worse than that because these people had to put down a deposit to kind of secure my time, which we then had to pay back. So we didn't have much at all. Yeah. And at that very time, I was about to invest in a marketing company for several $1,000s a month, which we didn't have.
And then as we see our bank account going down.
So I say to Cami, but what if we did it though? And she's like, all right. And so we did. So we invested.
Worst case scenario, I'll wait tables.
We invested in this marketing company just as everyone was kind of going online. And we didn't know that that's what would happen, but I think there was a big surge at that point too.
So 2020, really.
Yeah. Wow. And then, of course, moving to Steubenville was helpful, building a studio and having a lot of people come through Steubenville anyway, having good professors up the road who I could, like Dr. Scott Hahn and others to come in.
A lot of people have moved to Steubenville now. You've promoted it. Yep. Now you're not in Steubenville anymore. Where are we at now? I mean, you've now built a new studio. It haven't launched yet. So
Yeah.
tell us about the plans there. And yeah, I'm curious to see, do you have any standout guests that you've had over the years that you just say that they were my favorite, or for whatever reason, I'll never forget that person?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we are building a new studio in Florida currently, and we've really put a lot of money into it. So we've bought all new equipment. I've hired this carpenter, faithful Catholic guy named James Christian, who's been totally renovated the place, building walls and bookshelves and wainscoting, and the place built the table that we're going to have the interviews on. It is just spectacular. So, and it's 100% because people supported us to make it happen. I feel so grateful for everybody who supported it. Anyway, so that's exciting. So my first interview is when we get back. 2 days after I get back, I'll be interviewing author John Eldredge on the show in studio, and pumped about that.
And what's he
And then Tammy Peterson the next day, I think,
Oh, wow.
too. Yeah. John Eldredge is a Protestant fella, loves our Lord, and he wrote a book called Wild at Heart back in the day, New York Times best-selling book. He's just beautiful. I just love him, and I've admired and benefited from his work for a while. So I look forward to talking to him.
Yeah, okay.
But as far as interviews, obviously Jordan Peterson was a big deal. It was really great to have him on the show. I just love Peter Kraft. He's my favorite person after my family. So whenever I get to talk to him, I'm just so edified. So I'm hoping to get him down again.
He's still so sharp, isn't he?
Yeah, I know. Every time I have
was
him
he
on, I think, well,
82?
that's the last time. And then he keeps going. So I don't know.
Only about 100 books is authored?
Yeah.
He's written more books than years he's been alive.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's just
He's
written
been a lot of years.
He's just written a new book with Ignatius. It's his biography. It's an autobiography.
wow.
So I'm actually really excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but also Chloe Cole. So
Tell us
Chloe, when she was about, I don't know if I get the exact age right, but 12 or 13, she started presenting as a male. And then she had chest mutilation surgery, which her parents agreed to. Doctors told her parents was necessary, all that stuff. And, then very bravely realized, I've made a terrible mistake. And so she was one of the first voices in the detransitioner movement. That's huge, actually, on Reddit.
Wow.
Yeah, like huge. There's so many people coming out right now who have been butchered by these pig doctors, quote unquote. So having her on the show was just so beautiful. She's such a brave girl, and I think her story is going to help a lot of people.
When was that recorded?
That released maybe a year ago or 8 months ago or something like that. I'd really
We'll
recommend.
try to find all these links. And
Yeah, she's beautiful. And then also finally, Andrew Dalton, Father Andrew Dalton, is an expert on the Shroud of Turin.
Yes.
And
That's the most popular video.
Yeah, that's had over 3 million views. And as I was recording it, I remember I said to him, can we pause? I know souls are going to convert. We need to pray now. And we both prayed for everyone watching it. And I even told people, let us know if that's you in the comments. And there's so many comments of people who have come to Christ, come back to the Catholic faith because of that episode.
He's coming to Australia in June.
Awesome.
So we're
He
very
is
excited about
a
that.
really terrific guy.
Can you give us one or two things that I'm putting you on a spot, but anything you remember from that interview that you could share now about the Shroud?
Yeah, no,
Just
not
something.
really. I can't. You know that experience of you hear a great homily and someone's like, what was great about it? You're like, I don't know.
Watch it yourself. We'll get that
Unfortunately,
link in.
I think what so impresses me about Father Dalton is that he's very analytical and objective. And so he's examining this shroud. I'm sure he would say that he's biased to some degree because this has been, in some respect, his life's work. But he's very objective and isn't merely looking for another miracle to add to his arsenal of arguments for the historicity of Christ and the existence of God. So he's open to things being corrected, he's open to the shroud being false, but one of the things he said was, now please go and watch the episode because I may get this incorrect, but he said that there was some soil found around where the knees are present on the Shroud of Turin, that is only found in that area, of where Christ was on the way of the cross. And there were things like that were just shocking.
Yes.
And then the obvious, this periodical that came out and said it was a forgery, and that went all around the world. But then they retracted that because they admitted they were wrong. But as retractions usually,
They don't make it around the
they
world.
don't make it around the world. Humility rarely goes viral, as they say. So so I'd really encourage people to watch that episode and share it with people, because I have been shocked. Like, even like that was like 2 years ago, and I'll go check out the statistics and go, oh my goodness, that's been viewed 100,000 times in the last 2 weeks. So I don't know who's watching it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is.
Praise God, yeah.